I believe there's a strange connection between people and islands. Our curiosity about what's happening and what's going on distant islands has always drawn us to them. Perhaps the urge to escape from where we are is a desire to get away. Who knows? There are thousands of islands on Google Earth that we've never visited or seen. It may sound odd, but for some, the difficulty stems from the fact that someone or something is certain you'll never be able to reach them. For example, the third island we'll discuss here has such a dark history that generations have deliberately avoided visiting it. The fifth island, on the other hand, is owned by a single family, and outsiders are absolutely not welcome. So if you're thinking of going, I'd advise you to think twice. There are no exceptions. And the last island is so steep, so remote, and so crucial to a single species that simply reaching its shore is considered an achievement in itself. These are just a few of the islands we'll be discussing. Let's start with the first island. You've probably heard of the Andaman Sea. It's a sea in Southeast Asia that's part of the Indian Ocean. It's surrounded by crystal clear waters and dense forests. However, there's an island here where the outside world is never truly welcome, and the people who live there have made that clear for centuries. This island is the number one island. North Sentinel Island is home to the Sentinelese people, one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. Anthropologists estimate that they have lived in isolation for 60,000 years, making them one of the oldest unbroken ways of life on the planet. 60,000 years of isolated life. It's possible, but it sounds a bit strange. When you look at it on Google Earth, it looks almost ordinary. A small island surrounded by coral reefs, densely forested, with almost nothing visible through the tree canopy. The Indian government has established a restricted zone around the island, and approaching it is illegal. This isn't just about danger. It's about protecting a people who have made their wishes clear for generations. A people who have neither the immunity nor the desire to interact with the outside world. Still, it strikes me as intriguing. If the goal were simply to protect the people, I wouldn't have anything to say, but I'm sure there's another reason. So, have there been people who've challenged this ban and tried to get there? Yes. Attempts to approach the island have, unfortunately, resulted in tragedy on more than one occasion, including the death of an American visitor in 2018. North Sentinel Island isn't off limits because the world hasn't discovered it yet. It's off limits because the people living there decided long ago that they didn't want to be found. That's exactly what the statement we mentioned at the beginning was written for. They're inaccessible because they won't let you reach them. Of course, not every island is like this. Not every forbidden island hides people. Some protect the exact opposite. A brand new piece of land where no one is allowed to disturb it. This is the second island. Surtsey didn't exist before 1963. It rose from the sea during a volcanic eruption off the coast of Iceland, and scientists saw an opportunity that would likely never present itself again. On Google Earth, it appears as a small, dark volcanic silhouette that barely retains its shape against the surrounding Atlantic Ocean. As you know, volcanic islands are formed from lava and ash that solidify on the surface as a result of eruptions from volcanoes located on the ocean floor. When they first form, they are not suitable for life. However, thousands of years later, they can become very fertile places. What's interesting here is that the volcanic mountain is actually located beneath the sea. In other words, imagine a volcanic mountain beneath the sea that meets the criteria we're familiar with. When this volcanic mountain erupts, since its upper cone is close to the sea's surface, the ash and magma are carried upward, that is, above the sea, where they accumulate and form a mountain. That's the gist of it. Anyway, let's get back to our islands. Access to Surtsey is almost entirely restricted to a small group of researchers. The goal is to observe, completely undisturbed, how life colonizes a brand new island from scratch. No seeds have been planted, there are no human footprints, and there are no shortcuts. Every seed that falls there, every bird that visits, every root that takes hold is recorded. It's probably the most closely monitored piece of land on the planet, and almost no one is allowed to walk on it. We're moving from an island still in the early stages of its formation to one whose fate has been defined for centuries. This is the third island. Poveglia is located in the Venetian lagoon, and a look at its history reveals a number of reasons to stay away from the island. During plague outbreaks, it served as a quarantine station and later as a psychiatric hospital. Some estimates suggest that tens of thousands of plague victims were buried here over the centuries, and according to local legend, the soil itself is partly made up of their ashes. On Google Earth, it appears as a strangely desolate, small, vegetation-covered island right on the edge of Venice despite being so close to one of the world's most visited cities. Public access to Poveglia is largely restricted and obtaining official permission is difficult. Local residents have long preferred to stay completely away from the island, citing its history rather than any official rule. Even centuries later, this notoriety continues to keep people away. From an island shaped by disease, we move on to an island shaped by something far more urgent. Hundreds of the world's most venomous snakes are crammed into an area smaller than half a square kilometer. This is the fourth island. Ilha de Queimada Grande lies off the coast of Brazil, and the locals call it Snake Island for a very real reason. On Google Earth, it looks like a small forested patch of land surrounded by open water, giving no hint of what lies beneath the tree line. The island is home to the golden lancehead viper, a species found nowhere else in the world whose venom can kill a human in less than an hour. The Brazilian Navy completely prohibits public access to the island, and even scientific visits require strict authorization and full protective gear. To be honest, no permit process would have been enough to keep people away from this island. The snakes had already taken care of that long before any laws were written. Not every forbidden island offers protection from danger. Some preserve a way of life that a single family has been striving to protect for over a century. This is the fifth island. Niihau in Hawaii has been privately owned by the same family since 1864. On Google Earth, it appears as a dry, isolated piece of land west of Kauai with almost no visible development. Visits by outsiders without an invitation are not permitted, and the small indigenous Hawaiian community living there has deliberately kept the island free from tourism and the development that has transformed much of the rest of the archipelago. Today, only a few dozen residents remain, and without hotels, resorts, or regular outside contact to shape daily life, they live just as their ancestors did. It earned the nickname Forbidden Island not because of danger, but because of a choice made generations ago to preserve the place as it was. This means that for over 150 years, one family has simply said no, and somehow their decisions have still held up. Building on this tradition of island conservation, we're heading to a group of islands that protect something far more fragile: entire colonies of seabirds with nowhere else to go. This is the sixth island. The Farallon Islands are located off the coast of San Francisco, close enough to be seen from the mainland on a clear day, yet in a location that is almost entirely inaccessible. On Google Earth, they appear as a scattering of small, rugged rock formations rising from the Pacific. The islands are a protected wildlife sanctuary that is home to one of the largest seabird colonies on the US mainland, elephant seals, and one of the highest concentrations of great white sharks on the planet. Researchers studying the sharks here sometimes refer to the surrounding waters as the Red Triangle, a nickname derived from decades of observed shark activity. Public access to the islands is prohibited, and access is almost entirely restricted to researchers. You can almost see these islands from the Golden Gate Bridge, and yet they are among the most isolated land masses in the entire country. From these islands, preserved to protect wildlife, we journey south toward the freezing waters. We're also heading toward a volcano that is one of the world's most remote nature reserves. This is the seventh island. Heard Island lies thousands of kilometers from the Australian mainland, deep in the Southern Ocean. On Google Earth, it appears as a white, ice-covered mass dominated by an active volcano at its center. The volcano at its heart, Big Ben, remains one of the most active volcanoes on Australian soil and occasionally spews ash and steam onto the ice. The island is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and landing there without permission is prohibited under Australian law. Reaching it requires government permission and an expedition team capable of surviving some of the world's harshest seas, and even then, very few people succeed. Between volcanoes, ice, and paperwork, most exploration teams can't even get past the planning stage. And now, the last island on this list. Banned not by the government or history, but by geology itself. This is the eighth island. Ball's Pyramid rises from the Pacific Ocean near Australia and looks almost impossibly steep. On Google Earth, it appears as a slender, pointed rock tower rising almost straight up from the open water. It is the world's tallest volcanic sea stack, and its cliffs are so steep that climbing it has been completely banned for years. The island is also the last refuge of the Lord Howe Island stick insect, once believed to be extinct. A small surviving population of this species was discovered clinging to a single shrub on the rock's surface. Today, Access is strictly controlled to protect a creature that may be one of the rarest insects on the planet. A rock so steep that almost no one can climb, it was the only thing standing between a stick insect and extinction. And here are 8 islands that prove distance isn't the only reason a place remains inaccessible. Some are protected by law, some by history, some by the creatures that already call them home, and one by a family that refuses to ever leave. Which of these islands surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.